I'd like to take this time to thank our sponsor, RX Smart Gear. Dave and his team have developed the perfect jump rope to counter common performance miscues, which in turn enhance the learning experience. They have an ergonomic grip and a swivel connection for better accuracy, and the resistance levels have helped with better timing. And the custom sizes promote proper form and technique. It's built durable to stand up to the rigors of intense workouts, and it was in fact prescribed to help you get better. That's how the RX Smart Gear jump rope was born. Dave Newman and his team have been a great partner for us in the podcast, and we appreciate him so much for all of his support. So don't forget to use the Clydesdale 15 discount code at checkout and get 15% off your order at rxsmartgear.com. And don't forget that that excludes new releases and special editions.
We are so excited to now have Mobility Movement as a partner. Their holistic approach to recovery is second to none. This is not just a program that helps with your flexibility and mobility, it also assists with stress release and sleep, two key factors in overall recovery. The website gives you a plan for each week, saves your favorites, gives you sleep protocols, has a specific protocol for your first week joining, and then there are these new things called open snacks, which are super cool. Here you are given quick warm-ups and cool-down protocols for the open WODs, featuring elite athletes Allison Scudds and Saxon Panchik. And who doesn't need recovery after those open workouts? The extensive library available to you is both vast and diverse. If you want to try Mobility Movement, go to mobilitymovement.com. That is mobilitymvmnt.com. And make sure you use our code Clydesdale20, all caps, to get 20% off your first 6 months. That's mobilitymovement.com, mobilitymvmnt.com. Use code Clydesdale20 to get 20% off your first 6 months. I've been using this since the first of the year, and I am sleeping better than I have in so many years. And with all the back issues I've had over the last 5 years, this has given me so much relief, and I'm able to work out 4 to 5 times a week without any pain at all. So go to mobilitymovement.com. That's mobilitymvmnt.com and use Clydesdale20 to get 20% off your first 6-month subscription.
Well, so I got to ask James before we start. So I have to know, what was your marathon time?
I ended up coming through at 3:37.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah, it was a good day. Legs are still a little bit sore now, but yeah, it was good. It's exactly what I remember it being the last time I had to do one. So the last probably 10 kilometers or 6 miles is like the roughest part. And yeah, but it was good. I did have a toilet break somewhere in there, like around probably the 8 or 9K mark. Probably took a couple of minutes. So yeah, I think on my Garmin, it would have probably projected at like 3:35, 3:34, somewhere there. But yeah, officially 3:37.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks. Yeah, good fun.
Well, we're super laid back here, so just going to be a casual conversation. As I was doing research, man, you are one fascinating individual. The multitude of things that you have going on in your life is amazing. So we're just going to jump right into it. For the audience, we're with James Newbury, 4-time CrossFit Games athlete, 2019 fifth fittest man on earth. Has been through a lot in his life. He is an inventor. He is an author. He does programming, triathlons, marathons, mountain biking, you name it. This dude has tried everything.
Yep.
So let's start with, I want to start with the biggest news right now going on with you, and that is that you did the quarterfinals and an Olympic triathlon in the same weekend.
Yes.
So tell us that story.
So getting ready for the quarterfinals, it wasn't like a huge priority. I had really only done maybe a handful of CrossFit sessions in the last couple of months. I'm living in Geelong now with my girlfriend, and we've kind of just like put in the calendar all these really, fun races to do, and we wanted to try and knock off the list. We wanted to get a sprint distance triathlon. We wanted to get a CrossFit comp under our belt. We wanted to do an Olympic distance, a half Ironman, a full Ironman, half marathon, and then also dabble in a little bit of powerlifting and Olympic weightlifting competitions throughout the year. So it was kind of just like getting them all, ticked off the list, but also, having fun with them at the same time. And it just so happened that the Olympic distance triathlon that we had put in the calendar was on the same weekend as quarterfinals. And I was like, oh, well, it looks like I'll just be doing quarterfinals over Friday, Saturday, and then, do the Olympic on Sunday. So I kind of busted it all out like fairly close together. And so I ended up doing 6 events that weekend because I had to redo one of my events because my camera didn't start, which is a bit of a bugger. So I did, I got as many done as I could on Friday. And then I did a couple more on Saturday. And then I was not very conditioned to CrossFit. So doing like high repetition squats and lunges and things like that, it toasted my legs. It was actually pretty funny when I woke up on Sunday morning and it was super early. We're heading down to the race, which is probably about maybe a mile bike ride. So we got on our bikes, it's still dark, and we're riding down and like, oh, my legs are actually really sore. But as soon as I got into it, it was actually quite fine. And then we just we hit the Olympic on the Sunday morning and had a blast.
How did your recovery go after that?
Well, we did have a few drinks at the end of that.
So, all right, there you go.
But all in all, I was good about a day later. Like I wasn't sore. It was basically just the DOMS from not, when you do, high repetition wall balls or high repetition pistols for the first time in a long time, even though you've been training, just the stimulus that is it just triggers you. For me in particular, those movements just get my DOMS going crazily. I guess it's just not something that my muscles don't get used in that way on a regular basis unless I'm training specifically for a competition. If I was training for competition, like, you can hit 2 or 300 wall balls and not be sore the next day if you're conditioned for that stuff. But when you don't touch, fast rebound wall balls or pistols, like just for me, that just gets me going. And I was just super sore, but it doesn't take long for me to bounce back either. Like yesterday after the marathon, I was extremely tight and sore all around my hips, all down through my legs. I'm still a little bit sore today, but I'm 50-60% better than I was yesterday.
So Amy likes to recover with an ice bath and a beer after any physical activity.
Love that. Love that.
That's how long I stay in the ice bath, however long it takes me to finish the beer. And then I know it's done. It's time to get out and recover.
Love that. Yeah, I do like an ice bath too. Luckily enough, where I've lived most of my life, I'm in very close quarters to the ocean. So I use the ocean a fair bit, and we do a lot of our open water swims just here in the ocean instead of in a lake or in a river or something like that. But ice baths are something like I had in my house in Adelaide. I had an ice bath in the recovery room. I had an infrared sauna, a float tank, like a Normatec setup. It was, I had everything that you could possibly want. And then I had the ocean like 100 meters away. So I was like spoiled for choice when it came to recovery, and recovery is something that I really do look at as a big thing, especially if I'm trying to compete in so many different things. And, the idea for this is, to have as much fun as I possibly can. And I also want to make sure that at the end of a competitive career and competing in sport, that I can still go for a surf if I want to. My body's not going to be so worn away that I can't surf, I can't hike, I can't travel, all these things that, I can currently do. I still want to be able to do them when I'm 60, 70 years old. So just trying to make sure that I am doing the right things for my body whilst also pushing it to its limit on a regular basis.
So I think I'm reading this, but you are saying that your priority this year is fun. Just having fun doing whatever comes up.
Yeah.
And not necessarily a CrossFit game season or any one of the events. It's all of it.
Yeah, it's all of it. And look, I've got 6 weeks until the semifinals, and now that the marathon is done, that's our last calendar event ticked off until after the CrossFit game season, just because that's kind of just the way it worked out. Like the Ironman that we're looking at potentially doing is December this year. So we wouldn't really have to gear up for crazy endurance stuff until then. So the next 6 weeks for me, I'm going to be focusing a little bit more on my CrossFit training. But yeah, I just want to go there and have fun. And, if that falls in a place that qualifies me for the games, fantastic. But I'm not taking it, I wouldn't say as seriously, but I'm not taking it to the nth degree that I have in years past, where it's like I live and breathe it day in, day out, 24/7. I wake up just to train and, to recover, and then just to get back to the very next session. This is my 12th season, and I'll do it, and I'll represent all the people that, get behind me to do it as best as I possibly can. And I feel like I've laid a fairly decent foundation for me to be able to, like, I'm never going to lose those movements as long as I'm touching on them, every month or so. But it's mainly just the capacity, like the leg endurance, the aerobic endurance, like the forearm endurance. If I can have all those in a state where, where they're, better than average, I should do decently well. And if I qualify, absolutely great. And if I don't, I'll be the first person to put my hand up for demo team again, because I absolutely loved the demo team. So I would definitely go ahead and do that, definitely. But yeah, it's a little bit of a different scenario for me this year. I just have so many things that I have not done for 12 years. This will be my 12th year competing. And I want to tick a few things off the list and focus on some areas that aren't wholly and solely just competing at the CrossFit Games, because I've done that a fair few times, and I've had a good taste for it, and I still feel like I could be competitive. Like this year, going into Waterpalooza with the boys, I didn't do a ton of training. I was kind of just doing swim, bike, run, and then maybe the occasional back squat session during the week sometime, and we still had a good showing there in Waterpalooza. Taking second place was, quite a surprise to me. I thought I would be letting the team down hard, but everything is kind of still there. It's just like I might just have to hurt a little bit more than normal to get things done. So, but that's okay. So yeah, you're completely spot on. I want to have fun with as many different things as possible, and yeah, dabbling in anything and everything, and focus on some things that I've neglected for the last decade.
Well, you've touched on two subjects I want to come back to.
Sure.
I'll let Amy go first.
Okay. Well, I was going to ask about the demo team, and I was going to ask, is that when you're in Khan's bromance kind of started?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the funny thing about me and Khan is that we've been competing almost since our both very first CrossFit session. I think I started a year earlier than he did. I went to regionals in 2012. His first regionals he was on the scene, but hadn't made, I think he was just after the regionals in 2012 he started. And then he qualified in 2013. And we were always pretty much, I think there was about 6 competitions over the course of the next 7 years where we were within one place of each other. Either he would be one spot ahead of me, or I'd be one spot behind him, or one spot ahead of him, et cetera, et cetera. And we were always in very close quarters in many, many competitions, from the open through to regionals. We would just always laugh about it, send it to each other and be like, oh, again, one spot away. And in 2014, he qualified for his first time at the CrossFit Games in 3rd place. I was in, I think, maybe 3rd place at the time. So I was in a qualifying position, I'm pretty sure. And I had to win that workout to stay in my position. And he had to place no more than 3 spots behind me to take my spot. So he needed to come 4th or worse, or four spots behind me. And he came in 2 spots or 3 spots behind me, and he got the ticket to the games, and he beat me by 2 points. So his first day, rookie season, was 2014, but it was very close mine. So we've always had a really good relationship. We're roughly the same age, and we come from very similar backgrounds in terms of growing up on the beach, doing surf life saving, playing rugby all through our childhood, and so very similar in many different ways. But yes, you are 100% correct. The bromance really started at the games demo team.
So was it?
That's where we got to hang out a lot and get to know each other even more, and realize that we have a ton in common. And from there, he basically, once the games was finished, he just said, "Hey, what are you doing after this? Do you want to come to France?" And I was just like, "Yeah, I want to go to France." And I was like, "Do you want me to be there as your coach for the weekend?" Because he was competing in the Marseille Throwdown. And he's like, "Yeah, absolutely." So I said, "Great, yeah, I'll come along." And then we booked in that. Then we booked in Copenhagen 2 weeks later, which was a team competition at Butcher's Lab. And then we were going to head back to the States and go to Rogue. And then I ended up coming home. But that period of time between, the demo team and going through Europe we kind of really, really hit it off. And we spent some time down in South America and, really hit it off and just, got along really well. Very easy to travel with. We're both, pretty easygoing, and we're kind of, chasing the same things. We're probably both at the same point in our careers where, we want to, get everything we can out of it. Leave everything on a good note. And then also start focusing on, other aspects of life that don't just, revolve around just beating yourself down in the gym every day.
Yeah, we've had Allison Scuds on a couple times. She said this year's demo team was the most fun she has had in a very long time.
Yeah. I have heard that from some of the guys that in the CrossFit Games management said, "You guys just look like you're having such a blast, like all the time." It's like, yeah, we're like, this is great. I think coming from competing at the games and doing demo team is two different, very, very different mindsets and what you need to build yourself up for. I trained as if I was going to compete at the CrossFit Games with Tia in Nashville. So doing the CrossFit Games training for 2 months, knowing that you're not going to compete at the CrossFit Games, was very, very rough. But at least I then got to use some of that fitness to its fullest potential doing demo team. But doing the workouts when you just have to get up there and just get them done. And, if you don't execute perfectly, it's not the end of the world. And that's probably more of the mindset I should have gone into in years previous at the CrossFit Games, because it just kept you in good spirits more of the weekend. And if you're in good spirits, you probably work out better. And that's what I did in 2019 when I did well. Is like, if I had a bad event, I kind of just brushed it off. With every other year, I was, hung up on bad events, and was like, I didn't do that perfectly. I didn't make all the points I could have in that event. So yeah, the demo team was all kinds of fun. It was great. And I got along so well with everyone in that team, and we all just vibed great. Like, it was fantastic. And you were really willing, Castro would walk in and be like, "All right, I need someone to do this workout." And you would just know that you'd want to get up and do it so the other guys didn't have to. You'd want to take one for the team, just because, it's probably going to be a pretty gross workout. It's going to hurt pretty bad. And you're just like, "You know what? You guys have been so good to me over this last couple of days. I'll do it for you."
So, and then the world tour that you and Con went on, that was such a great follow on social media. You guys need to do a TV show where you guys tour the world and just like show the great hot spots and the good eats and all that kind of stuff. It would be awesome.
Well, to be honest, we actually kind of spoke about this. We said, we should do a bit of a road trip, and set up whether it be just come and train for the day, but do it very much our style, which is kind of like come and train, but then let's go get a beer afterwards.
Yeah.
Instead of just let's go do a 8-hour training camp and we teach everything that we could possibly know about CrossFit. How about we just come in, we do a strength, like we do old school CrossFit setup, we do some strength, we do a Metcon, we do some skill, then we go out, have a drink, get to know everyone. And that's like just as much a part of it as, doing the clinic or the seminar or hanging out to do a workout. And we actually threw that idea around a fair bit, and to go around and do it through somewhere like Europe, be so down for it. That'd be super fun. Be like, yeah, it'd be a good time. I guarantee it. And if we could get it vlogged and take a camera with us, that would be even better.
Yeah, awesome. So then I want to touch on just a little bit about Wodapalooza. Yep. So one of your teammates couldn't make it to the States. So Matt DeLugos jumps on, and he's a friend of the show.
Yep.
And I was at Wodapalooza. Watching Matt have so much fun out on the floor with you
Oh,
guys was one of the
oh,
highlights of the weekend for me.
oh, it was my highlight. Watching Matt have such a good time there was making me so happy that he was having a good time. Like, I'd never met the guy before. The first time I met him was him walking into our hotel room saying, "Hey guys, I'm here." And that was like the first. I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't know anything. All I knew, Khan just said to me, "Hey, Matt DeLugos, he won an open workout. He's tall, he's super strong. Yeah, he's an absolute stud. He's going to do well." And I'm just like, great. I'm just here for fun. Like, let's just have a good time. And then he walks in the door and he's like, you can tell that he's like giddy about being there, and he's just pumped to be on the floor. And then after the first workout, I'm just like, oh, well, this dude is legit. Like, he is like so fit. And yeah, you can tell he's got a good number of years ahead of him. And just with the way that he's, switched on, the way that he's like, he approaches workouts, he's got some serious capacity, and he's definitely going to be, he could be the next Brent Fikowski.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. He is a tall dude. But the greatest was the lifting event, the strength event
Oh,
that he
oh
finished
man.
off.
He saved us. He saved us so much. Well, he saved me. He saved me. Like, man, there's no way. Put it this way: if that was an individual event, I probably would have come close to last in that event. And he put us so far up that we came like third or something like that. That's how well he handled the barbell, which I was so impressed with. I think the way that we structured that workout in particular, that was like, for us, that was perfection. We were going into that event thinking, let's just get through this one. And then Matt comes out and just dominates the barbell. And I'm just like, all right, cool. Let's just take a top three.
So with the way Wadapalooza goes, it is a party the whole weekend.
Yep.
Is that the best environment for you and Khan to compete in?
100%. Like 100%. It was a party all weekend. And if I have to be honest, on the final day, the weather got called for a bit and everything was turned off. So at like 10 a.m. we were already having drinks at 10 a.m.
Awesome.
So we went into the last couple of events like a few beers down already. So that was perfect. And I haven't been to Waterpalooza since 2015, and back then I was so serious about everything. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted to perform extremely well. And honestly, every time that I've just relaxed and had a good time and didn't take everything so seriously, I've done so much better. And that was the first trip back there since 2015. And now I feel like it has to be a staple. Every year that I can still compete and still move around, it has to be a staple, and just go there and just have a good time. And, if you do well, fantastic. And if you go there and have fun, fantastic.
Yeah, a couple beers in and you still finish second.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, it was great. It was like
Probably loosened you up.
It did. Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
It really did. 100%. And for Khan and I, if it's like mega serious constantly all the time, it's not a great time. If we can be a little bit more laid back and see it for what it is, and fitness is fantastic and it's good for so many things. But after, and there is a period of time where you do have to suck it up and take it super serious. But I think for us both now, it's more about how much fun can we have doing this thing that we've been doing for for the last 10 years. Like, how much fun can you suck out of it, to make it, to see it in a different light and see it for what a lot of other people see it for, which is, going out and being social and having a good time and training with friends and, just creating memories, really. Whereas, throughout 2016, 17, 18, it was just, for me, I just want to win the CrossFit Games. I want to go there and I want to compete the best I absolutely can. And I have the ability to do well. I need to make sure I show it. Now it's just like, oh, if I go there and I do absolutely great, then, that's awesome. And, that'll be cool. But I've trained harder and more intensely and more structured for events and done poorly. And then I barely trained once for Waterpalooza, and we come and get second. So, it's like, and I'm not saying that everyone can do that. I think that's just the teammates around me kind of held me up. But I think that for me and probably Khan, and mostly speaking for myself here, but I'm sure he's probably in a similar boat, is that, he wants to finish his career, and who knows how long that'll go for, on a high note. And I think having fun, doing well, and then just, not taking everything so seriously all the time is a good way to be intrigued to go and keep training and to do things like that. Not have as much pressure on yourself to be perfect.
And I think it's a great way to oh, sorry, Charlie, I'll let you go once. I just think it's a great way to celebrate towards the end of this, like you were saying, this decade-long thing, finishing out kind of this professional part of your life is this is a celebration. Let's enjoy it while we can.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely agree.
Charlie, sorry.
Yeah. So the real question is, how was Matt's form drinking out of the boot at the end?
He did it very well. Very Australian, very, very Australian. I have to get him down to Australia. He's hanging to get around. And I think because he's still so young, he's going to have the opportunity to be able to go and travel and go to different spots and train. But yeah, he's an honorary Australian now after he's done a shoey on US soil and taking a podium spot. So yeah, he's welcome here anytime.
So I want to get a little more serious. I want to talk about the mountain bike accident.
Yeah.
And how you then 5 weeks later did a triathlon with broken bones in your back.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. Well, yeah, the story of the mountain bike crash was I did a 70.3, so a half Ironman in just after the Open in 2019. Yeah. Just after the Open 2019, I took a couple of weeks off. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks. I took off to renovate my gym. So I didn't train at all. And I said to myself, this will be a great opportunity to get back into training. A guy from Wales had just recently joined my gym, and he was into triathlon and he was doing CrossFit. And I was talking to him and I'm just like, oh, so what do you want? What do you do? He's like, oh, I actually really like triathlon. I was like, oh, really? I didn't know you like triathlon. And at that time, I wasn't super into it. I'd heard about it. I'd maybe done a sprint before. Maybe one sprint when I was 16, and he's like, yeah. I did Geelong half Ironman last year and had a blast. And I was like, oh, cool, that's great. And then he said, actually, this weekend is Murrayman 70.3. And I was like, cool, what's that? And he's just like, oh, it's half Ironman. And so I was starting to learn about this stuff, and it was 3 days away. And I was like, well, let's go do it. He's like, oh, no, you can't do that. Can't do that. And then I was like, no, let's go. Let's do it. It'll be fun. Let's just go real slow. And so we got a couple of people from the gym. We went and did this 70.3. Man, it was tough. I remember running that last 21K thinking, I think I had about 11Ks to go thinking, whoa. And my final kilometer, I was like, I am buckled. I thought, so this is a half. That means that there's a full. It means that you have to do all this all over again. And I couldn't in my head comprehend how tough that would be. And so I'm sitting with it for the last kilometer of my run. I finish and I'm hobbling over to find somewhere to sit until the guys finish. And I just thought to myself, wow, I have to try a full distance Ironman just to see what that feels like, because that would be brutal. And on the way home in the car, I signed up for a full distance Ironman later that year in December. So I messaged all the guys and I just said, hey, let's go do a full in December in Busso. And they all agreed. And then I went around my gym and just said, hey, do you want to do an Ironman this year? Do you want to do an Ironman? And then I ended up getting about probably 5 people to do the 70.3 in Busso and 6 people to do the full distance Ironman. And they all committed to doing it, and I roped them all into it. And about 5 weeks out from that event, we were going to do a road ride. And then a couple of guys from the gym said, hey, how about, and some of them were the people that were doing the Ironman, said, hey, why don't we go for a mountain bike instead? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. So we went for a mountain bike instead. Coming down on the last run of the day, one of the guys was in front of me. He shot off, and I was like, I'll try and keep up. So I've taken a corner a little bit too quickly, overshot the corner, went over the handlebars, and then basically headbutted a tree on the way down. And as I headbutted the tree, I kind of like rolled up the tree a little bit, and there was a couple of protruding branches, and one of those branches like got me right in the middle of my back. And luckily it was no like, there was no like disc like separation or anything like that. That was all quite fine. I just took off a few spinal processes in my back, broke a couple of ribs, punctured my lung, and then I didn't realize at the time, but I hit the deck and I was like struggling to move, and I was just like, I could feel everything. I was just like, wiggle your toes. And because everything felt real cold. Like I was like super cold. And I was just like, wow. I said, that hurt. And I was like lying there, couldn't really move. I was just on the deck face down. And I was just like, doesn't feel too good. Give myself 5 minutes. And then guys started coming around, and they're just like, you okay? I'm just like, yeah, just give me 5 minutes. Give me 5 minutes. Can't really breathe that well. Eventually I get up and I walk out. Like I couldn't get on the bike, couldn't really move. I was very stiff, and ended up walking a couple of kilometers back to the car. And then I was going to get in the car. I felt pretty dizzy, and I was like, I probably got a concussion or something like that. And then one of the guys said, dude, maybe we should take you to the hospital. I was like, nah, take me home. I should be all right. And then he calls his partner, and she's a nurse, and she goes, how you feeling, James? I was like, oh yeah, I'm all right. She goes, go to the hospital. And she kind of knew straight away that I probably should go to the hospital. And so I went in there. They ended up doing x-rays and things, got all those, all that stuff, confirmed that, yeah, I had, I think 3 broken ribs, 3 spinal processes were like cracked off where they should be sitting on the shark fins that come off the back of your spine. A punctured lung, which they were more so worried about because it was partially collapsed. And probably a concussion as well. And then I said to those guys at the hospital, I was like, okay, so what's the healing rate for this type of stuff? Like, what are we looking at here? Probably can't do a lot for the next 4 or 5 weeks. And I was like, I've got an Ironman in 5 weeks time. They're just like, no, you won't be doing that. And I was like, in my mind, I was like, well, I've convinced all these people to do it. There's no way that I can't not do this with these guys. And we'd been training for it as well. And I was just like, it's such a waste to just like see it go. So I sat in the hospital for 5 days. And then the day that I got out, I went home. It was about 5 p.m. And I went and sat on the bike at the indoor trainer and just like kind of like moved my legs back and forward on it. And I was very stiff and very sore. And I thought, okay, tomorrow, I think I can pedal. So tomorrow I'm going to start off with just doing an hour. So the next day I got on the bike, I pedaled for an hour. Day 2 pedaled for 2 hours. Day 3 pedaled for 3 hours. And it was nothing crazy. It was very slow. I was in TT position. And once I was in TT position on the bike, I could just stay there. My back was really jacked up. Like all my muscles in my upper back were like locked on. I couldn't take a deep breath in. Like my breath, I could only pull my breath into maybe like 30, 40% before it started getting really sore in my chest. And I thought, if I can't train 100% for this Ironman, the least I can do is go hardcore on recovery. So I was in the ocean 4 times a day. I was getting in my infrared sauna morning and night. I was sleeping extra. I was eating extra. I was in my float tank whenever I could. I kind of just like tried to turbocharge everything. I was trying to get as much sunlight as I possibly could get outside, not just sit in bed for a month like I think a lot of people would do if they get, ACL surgery or they get, a shoulder recon or whatever it may be. I was like, I'm going to try and be as active as I possibly can without having the pain go above like a level 4. So I just tried to move as much as I could and do all the right things. And, I put red light therapy on my back, whether that helped or not. I just did everything I possibly could. And then after day 5, so day 5 was 5 hours on the bike, did 5 hours on the bike on day 5 after getting out of hospital. And then, I was walking to and from the beach. And I got to around about, I think it was day 6 or day 7, I went to the pool to see if I could do like a really relaxed casual stroke. And I could, as long as I twisted with it and kept my back really flat instead of like tilting and like shifting my spine a lot. So I could swim, not very quickly, very, very slow. So I could swim. The worst thing was running, because the impact of me running was just jolting my back and everything was very quite sore. So I don't think I started running until about day 9 or 10. and it was very slow, and it was like 40 minutes at a time. But I was able to cycle on the indoor trainer. I wasn't able to ride outside because I couldn't make any fast turns or anything like that. So I was just riding on the indoor trainer. And then my breath got to about the point, I think this is about day 10. My breath got to a point where it's about 50% I could bring it into. And when it got to 50%, it almost like felt like I had a stitch down my sternum. I couldn't draw a full breath in. It was like something was impeding my breath. And if I tried to push past it, it felt like my chest was going to explode. So I've gone down to the beach and I'm sitting in the water, and out of nowhere, and there wasn't a lot of waves where I was, living at the time. And I saw a wave coming. I'm just like, it's so peculiar that the wave's coming. It's just some rogue wave is rolling its way in, and I couldn't move very quickly. I still had to turn, moving my whole torso to turn, like I couldn't twist. And I'm just like, oh, this wave is actually going to get me far out. Like I can't move. I'm just going to have to sink into the water and go below it. And at that point, I still wasn't able to move quickly. So this wave's coming, and I just basically, natural instinct when you go under the water is to suck in a breath. And I totally forgot about what was happening because it was all happening so quickly. I sucked in a breath, and as I did it and went underwater, I felt almost like, when you get your back cracked. Mm-hmm. I felt that, but all through my sternum. Like I felt this big, big release in my sternum, and it was the weirdest sensation ever. And I thought to myself, what just happened? The wave went over the top of me. I stood up, and I went from like having 50% breath in to full breath, like 100% in this, like then and there. Whatever happened, whatever was impeding my breath, it was gone. I could take a full breath in with no pain, no nothing. So it's like, felt like it felt like my lung was catching on a rib, and it just pushed its way past it or something like that. It, obviously that might not be a thing, but that like made me feel a million times better. It was the most satisfying feeling after going like almost 2 weeks without being able to breathe properly. Then from there, I was kind of in probably, I was training at like a medium intensity, and then I went back and got a rescan done on day 15. And at day 15, the doctor said, your ribs look great. I can't see any fractures in your ribs or anything anymore. He goes, they look good. And he goes, what have you been doing? And I was like, been running, I've been cycling, I've been swimming. I've just been doing recovery every day, like been eating good food, I've been getting out in sunlight. And I've been saunering twice a day. And he's like, okay, cool. Like you look good. Like your spinal processes look great. Your ribs look good, and you're moving around. Just keep doing what you're doing. And so basically by that point, I think on day 16, I did a mock 70.3, and I got the 70.3. I got the mock 70.3 done, and I was like, yeah, I can do the Ironman for sure. So that was about, probably 3 weeks out from Busso. And by that stage, I could run, bike, swim quite fine.
So I didn't know it was an Ironman. I just thought it was a triathlon.
Yeah.
5 weeks after that accident, you did a full Ironman.
Yeah. Full distance. Yeah. I think it's, I'm not sure of it in miles, but 3.9K swim. So I think it's like 2.4 mile swim maybe. And then 180K bike ride. So I think 112 mile bike, and then
26.2.
26.2 mile run.
So 140.6.
140.6, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What is in the water down there?
Honestly, I think it's a strange thing, and I think until you've done a couple of things to test yourself, you build yourself up in your mind for whatever you're about to do. I found the full distance Ironman no harder than I did the 70.3 earlier on in the year. Mind you, I didn't train at all for a few weeks leading into the 70.3, and I've never done anything like that before. But I found the full distance just as hard as that. Yesterday, the marathon was, because I knew I was doing a marathon, the marathon was very, very difficult yesterday. In the back end, the last 10Ks was tough, but it was just as tough as the last 10, 15Ks in the marathon in the Ironman after already doing a 3.9K swim and 180K bike ride. I feel like it's relative to what you build yourself up in your mind. I think if you can understand, like if you had told me, okay, you've got to do 2 Ironmans back to back, you'd probably get through the first Ironman fairly okay. Like you'd probably get through it because in your mind, you've got a whole nother one. Whereas running Bendigo half marathon, so 21 kilometers of running a few weeks ago, that was very tough. The last couple of Ks was very tough because I pushed the pace to that pace. Got to the 21K mark yesterday in the full marathon, which is halfway mark. Felt great. Felt good. Felt like I could do a whole nother one, no problem. But it got to the last 10Ks and then I felt like, oh, this is really setting in now. So I feel like you can build yourself up to just about anything if you think about it enough.
I think that's exactly right. I think it's totally exactly where your mind, like when you know, oh, this is the distance I'm doing, this is when I'm done, that's when the mindset, shit.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
And you start to think in your head, I'm almost there. And then the
Exactly. But I still have an hour.
Yeah, I've still got an hour to go. Like that's exactly right. Whereas, if it was a 50K run, if I knew I was doing a 50K run, I probably would have gotten to the 42K mark, in okay fashion, like it would have been okay, but I was like dragging my legs to finish yesterday. So at the 42K mark. So I think it's very relative to what you perceive in your mind as well.
So you talk about what you ate in your recovery. So how long have you been a vegan and how has that changed your performance since you switched?
Yeah. So I went vegan. It would have been about 4 weeks before I had the mountain bike crash. So yeah, so it was right before that. And then, I felt honestly no different, no better, no worse than what I was doing beforehand. I basically just substituted, beef for tempeh, chicken for tofu, pork for lentils, and and then just added in some extra things like beans, which I wasn't having on a regular basis. And then just making sure I was getting a good array of like nuts and seeds. And I felt like I was probably having too much protein prior. Like I was trying to aim for like roughly 215 to 220 grams of protein a day. I'm roughly sitting on, I would say 160 to 175 a day now, depending on how much I train. Sometimes maybe even a little bit less if I don't train at all in a day. But I don't feel like it's had any negative impact, but it's had no drastic, I'm not superhuman. Like I know a lot of people will change their diet and be like, oh, I feel superhuman now, feel great. But I've been doing it like 2.5 years roughly now, I think. And I feel like my trajectory has been almost identical. I did a powerlifting comp, and this is probably a good way to look at it. I did a powerlifting comp in December of last year, so like 4 months ago. And I didn't do a ton of fitness. Like I wasn't doing, a lot of cardio, but I wasn't lifting much either. I was maybe lifting 2 to 3 times a week. So I wasn't doing a ton of training at the time. I was focusing on some other areas of life, some business stuff and whatnot. But I thought, I really would like to get a powerlifting comp under my belt. And I went to the powerlifting comp. I'd maybe back squatted maybe a handful of times between the CrossFit games and December. I deadlifted twice between then, and I'd bench pressed probably more than anything. I'd bench pressed, just with the guys in the gym in a session probably a dozen times between then. And I did this powerlifting comp and I PR'd my back squat. I PR'd my all-time deadlift, and I PR'd my my pausing bench press, all in that one competition. And that was all off the back of, still eating plants and not training a ton, but obviously doing a lot less fitness. So I think doing tons and tons of cardio does bring down your numbers a fair bit. And I wasn't doing any of that. So yeah, in 2 years, and that would have been a 2-year mark there. So I can't exactly say that, it has affected me adversely, to put it in perspective. Like it's not instantly gone from eating meat to being, not eating meat to being then weak after. That's not the case. Like I haven't PR'd my deadlift in 3 or 4 years. So to equal PR my deadlift is, that was a 260 kilo deadlift for me. I think that's 575 pounds, somewhere there. for me, that's a great lift, whether I was, no matter what my nutrition was. That's fantastic for me.
So what do you tell someone like Charlie who thinks the only vegetable he can eat is a potato?
Hey, I love potatoes. I love potatoes. Like, I would try and have potato every day pretty much. Honestly, like, I think each to their own, and I'm definitely not a vegan that is going to push this on everyone to do. This is like a personal choice. And if I can just, if the one thing that's stopping someone from eating a more plant-based diet is the idea that it's going to make them weak, or the idea that it's going to make them unhealthy, or the idea that it's going to make them be lacking in nutrients, if I can just be there to show that that's not the case, great. Cool, I love that. But I'm definitely not going to sit here and just tell everyone that they have to do this because this is, the best thing to do. It's the right diet for you, or it's the most environmentally friendly thing to do. I think if I can do it in a way that is not annoying, and just do it in a way that just shows, hey, here's what I'm doing. You can actually be fit and healthy and strong, still eating a plant-based diet. And if that's the only thing that's holding you back from doing it, you should give it a go. And that's pretty much it. I just try to make sure I get lots of variety of different colors on my plate, and eat to the macronutrients that I think support my good performance, and that's pretty much all I do.
So you now have a cookbook.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, like, because that helps other people who may be curious about it, like gives them some options. What did you use for your reference when you were figuring out what to eat?
Honestly, it just took a bit of time, and I'd been looking into it for a fair while prior to doing it. But YouTube was great, Instagram was great. There's plenty of resources just online. Just if you're looking at, even on Google, just typing in, great protein-rich plant-based recipes, and something will pop up on a bunch of different recipe sites that give you a plant-based option. Like, just learning about what the foods have, like what the rough percentage is in comparison to other things. I just basically just YouTube and Instagram, and I just followed a bunch of vegan chefs or vegan cookbook authors on Instagram, and then their stuff would just pop up all over my feed. And I was like, oh, I like that idea. And then I just started adding in weird things to, my dinners and things, like adding, berries and nuts and things like that on top of my dinners, just to get a bit of variety and color onto the plate. Just to make sure that I was, nailing my macros, making sure I was getting vitamins and minerals and antioxidants and things. And that was really it. And then I just kind of you figure it out as you go, but you have to take the time to be like, oh, I don't know what to have for dinner. Okay, maybe I'll look up a recipe. Oh, you can make a vegan poke bowl. Great, cool. I'll do that with tofu. I'll do that with tempeh. I'll do that with beans or whatever. And I'll just, cook some rice and put it with a bunch of, stuff that you'd get in a normal poke bowl, which is pretty much plant-based anyway. Just take out the fish and put in some tofu or tempeh, and you're good to go. So it was all I really wanted to do in the Vegan Athlete ebook was just give 40 meals that I would use over the course of a whole month, like in variation. Just, this is what I could possibly have during a whole month. And I'm going to jam it all into a week for you guys, so you can see it on a day-to-day basis, how you would, if you wanted to structure it into a week, you could do it like this. Some of the calories are very, very high in some of those days because I tried to cram in 6 meals in a day, which I don't have every single day. If I'm super hungry, yeah, I will, but then there'll be other days where I'll have 3 meals. And I'm very much, and I tell people this a lot, I'm very intuitive with how I eat. If I'm working on the shipping container all day long and I'm not doing any training, I might only have 3 meals in a day. I might wake up, I'll fast for a couple of hours, I'll have breakfast, then I'll have lunch, and then I'll have dinner. And then I might have a smoothie at some point in between there. And that'll be me for the day, because what's required of me today is definitely not what was required of me yesterday doing the marathon. So every day is a little bit different. And I feel like you don't have to be perfect to feel great.
So you said something there that piques my interest. You said working on the shipping container.
Yeah. So Paige and I are renovating a shipping container and turning it into an Air B&B. So yeah, we're having a crack at that, and we're not tradies by any means, we're just having a go at it, which is pretty fun. It's good.
Well, that's perfect because Amy and I are trying to get to Australia at some point. So
Yeah,
if you
sick.
guys
Oh,
are
hey,
good, well,
we might have a place for you guys to stay. Don't worry about that.
perfect.
So
Oh,
also,
that's cool.
I wanted to talk about all the other books you've written,
Yeah.
including there's a physique one. There is like a the one I loved is Swim Like an Aussie.
Yeah, that was my first ever one. And I wrote Swim Like an Aussie. Kind of funny because when I first went to the CrossFit Games, the Aussie contingent was known for being quite decent at swimming. And in 2016, I was not a great swimmer. And I felt like I had to train extra hard in the pool so I couldn't let down the commentary team, because I knew the commentary team were going to be all over how well the Aussies swim, because we all grew up by the beach and we all know how to swim and all that jazz. But unless you do swimming training, like, you're usually not a typically great swimmer, especially in a race format. So I worked extra hard. I would go and do extra sessions at the pool just so I wasn't like an outlier in the water at the CrossFit Games. And then I ended up getting really hooked on it. And then I just figured, you know what, like a lot of people want to know, how we swim, how to structure a day of a swimming session. Here are 21 swimming sessions that you can use in day to day, 7 of which are skills and drills, so very low mileage. 7 are power and like speed sessions. So short, like 50 meter intervals or 50-yard intervals. And then the other one's more of an endurance session where you're hitting like 200 and 300 meters at a time. And I figured I'll write this ebook because I know how to structure a swimming session. It's very easy to me. I've never written an ebook before, so I'll do it and I'll call it Swim Like an Aussie. And I didn't expect it to do, super numbers or anything like that. Just because it's such a niche and a lot of people don't like getting in the pool. And it didn't do overtly well. Like, it was like not crazy. It sold a few, but not many. And I kind of figured that, but I really just wanted to test myself out to see whether I could write an ebook and have it presented decently enough.
And how many ebooks do you have now?
Oh, there would be 1, 2, 3, 4, probably 5 or 6. And I have 3 that are finished that are waiting to be put on the store. So three more. I have a functional Ironman ebook, which I brought out, which is more like Olympic to 70.3 distance, just tying in, a bit of CrossFit and triathlon. So if you do want to still do your CrossFit and do a triathlon and get through without being completely buckled by the end, you could do so. And then a lot of people ask me for a full distance Ironman prep. So I've just finished writing functional Ironman long course, which is basically getting ready for like a 140.6 whilst doing a bit of CrossFit training at the same time. But I had to structure that over 16 weeks, but then also taper off the CrossFit. So you're more so focusing on mileage towards the end, just so you can get through. And then a couple of other cool ones like, it was like how to find plant protein easily enough and add it into your diet. I've got one of those coming, which is finished. And then we've got another one that's like, if you're cut for time, you've got no time. So it's called Triathlon for Tradies. So it's basically triathlon for tradies and the time poor. So if you don't have a ton of time, but you want to do an Olympic triathlon, it's just been always on your bucket list just to get a triathlon done. It's like an hour or less a day for like 5-6 days a week. So just being super efficient with your time, getting ready for a triathlon. So it's not like you don't have to spend hours and hours on the bike.
And then you have 9 different programs available for people. I think I counted on your website, which is jamesnewburyathlete.au.
I think it's just .com, I think, actually.
Okay.
That's the one. Yeah, I've got heaps on there. It's there's just basically, I just wanted to take all the knowledge that I've gained over the last 10 years, and then just chuck it into a book where someone can be like, oh, I'm interested in that. I would like to see someone's perception on how they like to approach strength training and endurance, which is what I love. Like, I don't like focusing on any one just thing. I like to do a little bit of everything. And, it's like trying to make yourself the most hybrid athlete possible. And that's what I quite enjoy, and just do whatever makes you feel good and makes you happy at the time. And, I might be really, turned on at the moment by doing endurance stuff, but I really am keen. Paige and I are keen to do a strongman comp this year at some point. So I'd love to get into learning how to lift a log properly and learn how to pick up an Atlas stone and do all that. But I'm sure I'll probably do that one weekend. The next weekend will be a half marathon. So I want to be prepared for anything.
So you're also an inventor. You are
Yep.
the creator of the Tiny Timer.
Yes.
And I believe, so I go to Christy O'Connell's gym,
Oh,
and I believe
cool.
she has
Yeah,
one.
she does. Yeah, she's got one of the original, like, she's got like my prototype version. Yeah, she does.
Yeah, yeah. So what made you come up with that idea?
So the idea for the Tiny Timer came around in COVID when it was everybody's locked down. I was actually doing Zoom calls with a lot of people overseas and taking them for training sessions. And I was taking one of the guys who plays on the ATP tour. He's a professional tennis player. He's an Australian guy, Alex Diminar. And I was doing like an interval session with him that was recorded and it was going to be uploaded to the ATP tours Instagram and IGTV. And I kept having to muck around with trying to get my computer to display the Zoom and have a timer on the thing itself. And he was doing the same thing, and he was going overtime, and I was going under time, and it was just all a shambles. And I thought, you know what? If there are so many people that are locked down in hotel rooms and locked down in their apartments, especially in the European countries at that particular time, it would be good if they had the feeling of having a gym timer in there that they miniature, that they could start, it would act, and it would sound exactly like a regular gym timer, just like you would get in your CrossFit gym, and just have it there sitting in your room. It might be that little bit of extra motivation you may need to do a 10-minute EMOM or a 15-minute AMRAP, or to do Tabata. And I thought this would be a really cool idea. Or what else could I use it for? And then for me, I always struggled to see the clock. If I didn't have a watch, I would always struggle to see the clock at the pool. So I thought if I could have a timer that would sit on the end of the pool on a tripod, that would be also very cool. And I was like, okay, well, there's two things there. This might be a thing. And I was like, oh, well, I think this use case is great because there are a lot of people now training in their garages. It might just be something that's cool, portable. You can take to the park, you can take to the beach, you can take it anywhere. You can use it in your house. It doesn't take up a lot of room. You can chuck it in your gym bag. And then I just thought, you know what, miniature gym timer, let's go. And then I was sitting there and I was actually looking at my dog, who's a miniature dash hound, so a miniature sausage dog. And I thought, perfect, let's call it Tiny Timer. There we go. And then that ended up being my logo, which is like an outline of one of my dash hounds.
So what I loved is the magnetic part of it, right? You
Yeah,
can stick it on the rig. So if you're
Yep.
doing one of these like video submissions for CrossFit, you plop it right on the rig. That means
Yep.
you can keep it in the video shot. You
Yep.
don't have to like pull one down off the wall or.
Yeah, correct. Oh, and that was the worst thing, trying to hook up one that was connected via like a power cord and trying to navigate it through the gym, and you've got extension cords everywhere. I just didn't want to have to deal with that as well. There was just so many cool use cases for it. I just figured, you know what, why not? I'm going to lash out here and have a crack. And I think that's the biggest thing that stops people from, actually starting a business is like, oh, okay, that seems like a lot of work. But once you get into it, you just chip away at it. You chip away at it like anything else. Like you start something, you find a roadblock, you figure out a solution for the roadblock, and you move on to the next one. And you're bound to find more roadblocks along the way. But the thing now that we're doing with the Tiny Timer, version 2 is in the works, and we have prototypes for that, and it blows version 1 out of the water. Like, it's so much better. Like, I'm really excited for you guys to see that one. It's going to be very, very, very cool.
And the Tiny Timer has its own Instagram page.
Yep.
So you can check it out there.
Yep, you can. Yep, the Tiny Timer.
Yeah, I actually have a garage gym, and I have one of the big timers. I wish that was out when I bought my timer.
Oh, that's all right. Oh, well, I'll send you one of the new version once it comes out. You'll love it. It's so cool.
Awesome. So are you still a gym owner, Soul 365?
Yep. Still have Soul. That's in Adelaide. Yeah, I've opened the gym in 2013. March 2nd, 2013 was the day we opened. Yeah, still own that place, and it's turned into so many different things. It's evolved over the years so much. I've renovated that thing more times than I can count, and it's gone from CrossFit mode to mode fitness to Soul 365. It's just changed and developed over time, and it's now at a point where I feel like it's a beautiful space. It has a fantastic community. My dad manages the gym for me. So he's there every day making smoothies and coffees and handling everything from, cleaning stuff to managing memberships and everything. Like, so he's the glue that holds that place together, to be honest.
So when I was looking at their Instagram page, you're running a coffee and cardio challenge.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah.
mix
So
coffee and cardio?
So basically the idea behind coffee and cardio is like in a local spot in Adelaide, there's a car show, like a car meetup. It's called Coffee and Chrome. And it's like you take your upgraded car or your vintage car that you've done up over the years, and you take it and you have a coffee and you show it off to other people. Coffee and Chrome. And I thought, hey, like coffee and cardio is pretty funky. So we just called it Soul 365 Coffee and Cardio. So basically I wanted people to have a place where they could come, they could train, they would, be able to get a workout in, but also sit down, have a coffee and be social. I feel like that's a big aspect of what we were trying to implement, is people coming to a spot to not only get the benefits of working out, but also get the benefits of, meeting new people and having, social connections. And, I feel like that was the idea behind overall health and fitness. Wasn't just making you physically able, but also, having some, mental stimulus too, having social connections. I feel like that goes a long way for, people and, having, solid mental health. So, just adding in just a simple thing by having a coffee machine there was a good way to get people to start chatting with each other. And it's worked tremendously. Like, it's great. People sit down, have a coffee and meet someone they've never met before.
That's awesome. Well, I have one more question for you, and I'll turn it over to the other two.
Sure.
And this is my geek question. Ringer 1, Ringer 2.
Yeah.
Did you know going into Ringer 1 that you were going to sell out so much that Ringer 2 was going to suck?
Yeah, absolutely. I was all in. I put all my chips on the table at that point. I got a call from Michelle Laton, who was coaching me at the time, and she just messaged me. And we'd done a lot of assault bike sprint intervals like that before. And toes through rings is, for me, it's a very easy movement for me to do, like constantly, even out of breath. And she just said to me, hey, I think you're better off going for the win on the first one and then just, do whatever you can on the second one. I was like, love that idea. Sounds great. Let's go. So she just said, go full send from the get-go. So I was like, all right, sounds great. I got very nervous at that point because I knew how much it was going to hurt. And so that's kind of like what I did. I went in there with the idea, with the confidence, knowing that I can win this first one. And then knowing that I will be buckled for Ringer 2. And I completely was. Like, I remember finishing Ringer 1 thinking, you're okay. 20 seconds later, you're not okay. You're absolutely not okay. You've done yourself in. What have you done? And well worth it, mind you. Well worth it. I got to the start line of Ringer 2 and I went to jog off the line and took, I think, 2 jogging steps and then just started walking. Like, I had nothing. I had 0 battery left. And then I remember trying to do a burpee. And normally, like, your burpees are reactive. You're off the ground straight away. I was laying there for like 2 seconds at a time looking at my judge. My judge was laughing at me and he just knew that I had nothing left. I just got through that workout with whatever I had left. And it was slow, but well worth it. Like, to get the win in an event, great.
Do you know the wattage you were turning on that bike?
You know what? I kind of blanked out as soon as I started. I kind of blanked out. I couldn't really see a thing. But I dare say, usually when I crank the assault bike up to like max wattage, it's usually up around like 1700, 1800 watts, usually on there somewhere. But I think like in that one, for instance, I think so. The time on the bike was about 30 seconds, and I think the time from the start line to the assault bike was roughly 4 seconds. So it basically took me 30 cows in 30 seconds. I think my best ever output in a training session, I think I've done 40 calories in 28 seconds before. Somewhere there. So when so I think, if it was, I did go all out, but I think there was just a touch of, okay, you might have to get back on the bike again after this. So, but it was enough. It was enough.
Amy, Charlie, you have anything else you want to ask?
I wanted to ask, I saw, on your last Instagram post when you were talking about the marathon, and you said you've been running 3 days per week to prepare for that. So I came into CrossFit being a marathon runner first. And then, once I started incorporating CrossFit, I was like, oh, I can run less, days per week, and by incorporating CrossFit. So did you add other workouts or cross training into this particular training session?
No, not exactly. So Paige and I were preparing for Geelong Ironman 70.3 a few weeks ago. It was about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And we were very particular in the training. I was following along Paige's training. She was, this is her first half Ironman. She was, very committed to getting all the work done, even when you didn't feel like it. Mm-hmm. Every session was ticked off the list. Every box on Training Peaks was green. And so we were we woke up with the priority every day that training is number one. We have to get this training in. Once we finished 70.3, we were just like, okay, let's focus on the shipping container. Let's focus on doing some other things. We have a few businesses between us. So it's like, okay, we need to focus on some other things now. Let's, make those a priority, and let's get the training done around that. And if we miss a day, we miss a day. We'll try and make it up tomorrow. So we have been structured it with the intent that we would get our running done as a priority, which was roughly 3 days a week, just knowing that we had a marathon coming up and we had Bendigo, the half marathon, coming up. And then in and around that, we have been to the gym maybe a handful of times to do a little bit of I've been doing some deadlifting. And then Paige has been doing some squatting and stuff as well, just for, potentially we want to do a strongman comp near the end of the year or after the CrossFit Games season. So we just wanted to add in a little bit of that. But all in all, we haven't been doing really any CrossFit. The only CrossFit we kind of did during that period of time was the quarterfinals lead up and the open stuff. So we haven't really been doing a ton there. But now that the marathon is done, we're going to start incorporating it. We have a CrossFit comp, a partner's CrossFit comp in 2 weeks' time. Paige is doing it with one of her old friends, and I'm doing it with one of Paige's friends. So we're going to start doing a little bit more, and obviously leading up to Torian, I'll have to do a little bit more as well. But yeah, in the lead up to the marathon, I think if I was to go back and I really wanted to do a great time, obviously I'd have to up the training. I think running 3 days a week for a marathon is not enough. It was enough to get me through, but I was very, very sore, obviously, by the end. And, I wasn't all that pleased with my time. I was hoping for more around 3:15, 3:10, somewhere there. So to come in at 3:37, I felt like I could do a lot of things a lot better. Number one was probably the mileage. We weren't doing a ton of mileage. We're doing more mileage running, getting ready for the 70.3 than we were getting ready for the marathon. So I think, yeah, we could have structured it a little bit different, but also, we got it done with the intent to have fun. We didn't get it done with the intent to, we're going to crush this, It was let's get it done, but let's also not neglect the other things in our life as well.
Yeah.
What's your best marathon time? Out of curiosity.
3:57:57.
Nice. Came in under 4 hours. That's great.
Yeah, that was my goal, was to get under 4 hours. And I said, once I get under 4 hours, I'll retire from full marathon. So
great. Oh, how good is that? Well, it's that was almost identical to the time that I did in Bustleton for the Ironman. I did 4 hours and 7 seconds for that one. And oh my God, I just remember the last 3 kilometers felt like 10. Fun. It's good fun though. It's good. It teaches you a lot about yourself.
Yeah.
Charlie, you got anything before we let James go?
Yeah, I'm good.
Well, James, I want to thank you. This has been a lot of fun.
My
I
pleasure.
didn't even get to talk to you about Machu Picchu.
Machu Picchu. Oh, Machu Picchu. Oh, that's all right. Hey, well, if you guys want me back, I'm more than happy. I've had a blast. If you want me back on, we can talk about a million other things.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'd love to.
Cool.
So we'll let you get through the game season a little bit and maybe have you back on.
Great. Love it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, James. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.